Hello, welcome to part 2 of the Paul Devlin episode on the Centre Circle podcast. Paul, I have a question about Marcus Bent. In the changing rooms, I guess, did you have a bust-up of some kind?
Yeah, we had words. I mean, I got on great with Benty, and I got to say, for a year or two at Sheffield United, he was absolutely fantastic, and he ended up going on and having a brilliant career. But we had like an hour or two where we fell out beginning on the pitch, but we got on great after it. It was blown up into a big thing, really, that there was this sort of hatred there. It was never. We got on great. We were playing an FA Cup game. I think it was either Lincoln or Cardiff. I can't remember who it was against, and we ended up winning 4-1. And I think Benty got 2 or 3 goals, and I'd set. If he got 3, I set 2 up, or if he got 2, I set a couple of goals up. So we'd scored. But I remember he's gone down the byline. He's got to the byline, and I'd made a run, and literally all he's got to do is pass the ball 6 yards to me, and I'm tapping it into an empty-ish net. But he's tried to shoot from the most ridiculous angle you've ever seen. So I've ended up having a right go at him. He's ended up having a right go at me, and then we ended up a lot. Clyde's gone back down the other end. Me and him are head to head, arguing, tussling on the pitch. And obviously Warnock, he used to love anything like that. He just used to laugh at it. But what he'd done, which I think was the thing that annoyed Benty the most, he took Benty off, and he left me on. So that I thought, that ain't going to go down well. He should have either bought us both off or leave us both. And Sophie had scored 2 goals as well. He's on for his hat. He scored 2 or 3, I can't remember. Probably 2, because he would have been on for his hat trick. So anyway, Benty's stormed off straight down the tunnel. So I'm coming in the tunnel after the game, and I'm thinking, I know what's coming here. So I've got all my kit on, my studs. So like tiled floors in the change room. You have to walk like you're ice skating anyway, that's slippery. So I've gone in and I've just stood in. Benty's come out the showers, start naked. Look. So he's come to me. We're having verbals, and the lads are going, calm down. Warnock, leave him to it. And I never think he was a big un, Benson, and he's come over to me, and he's like, when you go head to head like that. So he's like gone to he hasn't gone to headbutt me. He's gone to put his head on mine. But I just thought, this is the perfect chance. So as he's put his head down, I'm just going bang. I've headbutted him, jumped on top of him. So I'm sliding all over the place because I got my studs on. I can't hold him because he's soaking wet and he's naked. So it's like trying to hold an eel. And we're having the roll round on the floor. So then it lasted about 20 seconds. And the lads have all broke it up. And Warnock's just laughing. He's going, right, you in at 9 o'clock in the morning, you in at 9:10 in my office. So I'm thinking, bloody hell, it's going to be 2 weeks' wages. It's going to, ban us from the team, whatever. So I don't know whether you've ever been to Bramall Lane, but there's a massive car park on the front of Bramall Lane. So 9 o'clock, obviously all the office staff are in, but the players, obviously I go to the training ground and B9, they're never in at 9, it's always 9:30, 10. So I've pulled up, I had to be the early one. So I've pulled up literally on this massive car park on my own. Who's pulled in the same time as me? Benton. So we both pulled up together, and I'm thinking this is going to be round 2. Nobody around this time in the middle of the car park. And to be fair, Benton's got it. I think he had about 4 or 5 stitches in his lip. And he got out and he went, Dev. And I went, Benty, I'm ever so, we apologised to each other, give each other a hug, said we're sorry. Went into Warnock, he's gone, well, I can't use the language that you're using. You pair of daft so-and-sos. He's gone, Dev, you're the current player of the season. Benty, you've got 20-odd goals. You're going to get a big move. What's on your mind? But he handled it brilliantly. It was like, yeah, okay, don't do it again. No fine, no suspension, nothing. We both played again the weekend. Benty ended up going on to be top scorer for Sheffield in the league, and he got a £3.5 million move to Blackburn, I think, at the end of that season. But I mean, Warnock's put it in his book and all that, and it's been made a big thing of. But any pro will tell you things like that happen every week in training, on the pitch. You get flashpoints like that. Me and Benty got on great before that, and we got on great after it. It was just a couple of minutes of madness because we both care. We both want to win. And it ended up in a 20-second fight, which people are still talking about 15 years after the event.
Yeah, makes a good story, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah. And another ex-Blues player as well, ended up at the Blues for a stint as well, Benty. So he had a great career. I think he had about 14 clubs, Benty.
Yeah. Good journeyman, yeah. You spoke about Sean Dyche briefly.
Yeah.
What was it like to play with him?
Brilliant. Dyche was one of them, a bit similar to Chris Ward, that you always knew he was going to be a manager. You just always knew from the way he talked about the game, the way he wanted the game to be played. And just, I got quite pally with Dyche for probably 18 months, a couple of years at Watford. Very aggressive, steady-headed, played under, he was a kid under Brian Clough at Forest, so his pedigree was good. He was brought up the right way with, obviously, Clough being the first team manager and the pros he had around him. So, it's no surprise to me that he's gone on to do well. And again, straight talking, no nonsense, says it as it is. I remember him always saying to me, it isn't rocket science. Get your players fit, get them organised, and then you've got a chance. I think that's true in any era. Obviously, if you've got the better players, you're going to win more games. But he's done a fantastic job at Burnley, and now, not about job for life. There is a bloke that probably has got a job for life at Burnley.
Yeah. Why do you think the likes of Wilder and Dyche and them don't get better jobs? It's like they don't get the recognition they deserve. I
tell you why they don't get better jobs, because they haven't got a foreign sounding name.
That's it.
That can be the only thing I think they're not getting offered better jobs, or they get labelled with a certain style of play. Now, at the end of the day, you look what Dyche's done at Burnley. You look what Chris Wilder's done at Sheffield. Is there many coaches that you could throw in there and say that do what they done? Well, I can't think of many that could put him down there. Some of your foreign coaches that have been over here and say, "Oh, do what them lads have done." And it can only be a snobbery, a type of football snobbery. Oh, he's managed in Spain, he's managed in France, he's managed in Italy. But they're here now. Get someone that manages well here. And, it's the same with players. I look down the years, and don't get me wrong, there's been some amazing foreign players come into the game, Zola, Bergkamp, Henry, people like that. But I bet if you were to sit down and you was to see a list of the foreign players that have come over, for every Zola, Henry, but there's probably 20 that were awful and got sent back after a year. And that's curtailing our kids or our players from lower divisions, from reserve teams coming through. And, I do believe that the foreign legion has added massively to our game. But I think sometimes it's at the detriment of kids and players and managers that we've got here.
Yeah, I think. Go on, Sam.
Just talking to players, Paul, have you ever played with a player, must have done a few times, you thought, God, this guy's got it, this guy's absolutely unbelievable. Is there any player that sticks out for you?
Yeah, there's a few. Obviously, the one that springs to mind straight away and all the Blues fans talk about is Christophe Duguay. Yeah. All of a sudden we're at Blues and we were a hard-working team, got promoted, the likes of Granger, Jeff Kenner, Steve Vickers, Darren Pearce, Jeff Horsfield, people like that. And Brucey brought in Matty Upson, Kenny Cunningham, Robbie Savage. Then all of a sudden, one day we're training and we got Christophe Duguay on the pitch, a World Cup winner, European Championship winner, Barcelona, Bordeaux, blah, blah, blah. And how's this happened? And he was, Christophe was at the end of his career. His knee was absolutely shot. But you trained with him and he was just unbelievable. For such a big man. And he was about 6'2", Christophe. He was a big, big lad. His touch, his ability, his movement, everything was fantastic. But, you play with a lot of players, like that. And it's hard to single one out because of different positions. Then you look at some goalkeeper, Alan Kelly at Sheffield United, absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. Some of the defenders I played with, Martin Granger was fantastic. Chris Shaw, who doesn't get any recognition, but he was one of the best fullbacks I ever played with. Winger, Stan Lazaridis, best left-sided winger, best left winger I ever played with. People like that. But the one that you look and sometimes you can even tell the lads in training, bloody hell, he's good anyway. And that'd probably be Christophe.
Did you play with Phil Jagielka at Sheffield United? Or
Jags was a young kid at the time. Jags, Michael Tong, Nick Montgomery, they were all breaking into the team. I'll be honest with you, I never thought Jags would go on to have the success he had. He's had a top class career, Everton all those years, and England. But you could tell they were all good players at that time. That's Sheffield United had a good crop of youngsters coming through, and they all went on to do well.
Fantastic.
Christophe Duguay, when he came in, he was just such a cool character, wasn't he? Was it obviously you say it's weird to see someone like that at Blues? Did he kind of take in the dressing room, or was it what weird because he was
No,
so
strange, because he was that cool. He was like the coolest man in the world, but it was comical because again, Brucey was a bit similar to Warnock. He'd work you hard, he'd train you hard. It's all right, lads. We've got a game Saturday. We haven't got a game until next Saturday. We'll train normally Monday. I'll run the nuts off you Tuesday, and you can have Wednesday off. Happy, every pro will take that if you're going to get a day off in the week. But Christoph, I remember the one time that sticks out in my mind. We had this mad physio called Neil McDermott, who was from Sunderland, but I used to train like a nutcase. So we're all in the gym at West Hills, and we're doing circuit training. So we know we're getting blasted on Tuesday, but we're having Wednesday off. So we're in there and we're going mad. All the lads, you paired up. I think I was with Jeff Horsfield or something. So I'm on the rower. So it was like a minute on, and he's on one machine, and I'm on the other. So you got all the first time. It's like something out of Rocky, really going hard, sweating and all that. Where's Christoph? No sign of Christoph. So we're about 20 minutes in. Pokes his head. He had the big long hair at the time. He's got a haircut like me now, by the way, Christoph.
Has it?
So, yeah, he's bald then. But he had the big long hair and tied back and dead suave. So he's like leaning round the gym door with a cup of tea, drinking his tea like that. So Bruce is in there, and we're all thinking, bloody hell, Bruce used to hate it if you were late. Hate it. That was one of the things he detested. And like if you weren't working hard, that was another thing. So we're all thinking, God, he's late, and like he's got the audacity to drink a tea, not come in and apologise and jump straight on something. So we're all the lads are looking at now. So Neil McDermott's gone, get on the rower, Christoph. 30 seconds, get on the rower. So he's looked at us, whoever was on the rower at the time, sweating, and he just went, no, footballer, not rower, and turned and walked back into the canteen. So we've all gone like that. Looked at Brucey, and Brucey's like, he's took 30 seconds, took it on board, and he did swear, so I won't swear. He went, when you lot have won the World Cup, you can do that. And just like, but there was a couple of occasions like that. But he was, when he came in, he wasn't a big time Charlie. He wasn't arrogant. Real nice bloke, and great to have a play about the place. And I think that year we'd have stocked up anyway, comfortable. We stocked up well that first season. But he was like the cherry on the cake. We stocked up, and the last sort of dozen games, he nicked about 5 or 6 goals, and he brought that bit of flair. And he was really, the cherry on the icing on the cake, if you like, for that season. And I think that year West Ham went down with, West Ham with like 44 or 46 points that year. Took it, which would probably get you halfway now, or just under halfway. So, but it was a great first season, and obviously doing the double over the Villa as well that year was great. Yeah. It was just you couldn't have wrote the script for that season any better.
Yeah, it was incredible, and we kind of dominated. I feel like for a few years.
Yeah.
We just pushed on, and we had I was going to say we had such a good team, but I mean, I don't know. We did have such a good team. It just worked. And when I was younger, that's kind of, when we got promoted, I was like 10 years old. So in my eyes, we were always good. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like my dad tells me about the Barry Fridays and I remember my dad always saying to me, it doesn't. When we beat Villa 3-0, I was there, and my dad turned to us and said, "It doesn't get better than this." And I was going, "Oh, you take it for granted." And now, obviously,
I say to a lot of Blues fans now who moan about the Blues and the state we're in now, if you've been a Blues fan and this last sort of 20, maybe 25 years have been your era, you've probably seen one of the better eras in Blues history. You've seen us win a cup. You've seen promotion, and you've seen top flight football for a few years. And that's a good period in our history, mate, believe me. So I do get a little bit annoyed when, obviously it's young kids, they don't know, but, we've had a relatively good spell. It's not great at the moment, but we've been in far worse positions than we are now. So it doesn't worry me, and it's just part of Blues, really.
Yeah, it is. And I was going to touch on that. At the minute, I mean, our league position is pretty dire, but
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel as bad as it has in previous years where we've survived on the last day. And I know a lot of Blues players, Blues fans are doubting the players' quality. I always stand. I think the players are good enough,
Yeah.
and I don't really know what it is that's going wrong. I think Karanka's tactics could be better. Which I think is. What do you think of it anyway?
I look at the squad, and there's no way. I'm not saying the squad should be challenging to win the league, because I don't think they should be, but I don't think they should be down the bottom. You know, we've got far too good a squad to be where we are. I think the tactics have been negative. And, you know, any player will tell you, I played in a Notts County team that got relegated. You seem to go on one of those runs where your confidence is on the floor. You can't get a win. Every decision seems to go against you. And it's like you get into that sort of vicious circle. It's like when you're winning. I remember when I came and we got promoted and we won 12 games on the bounce. They were going in off people's backsides and teams missing penalties. And it's just that everything seems to be going with you. But I think there's been a few factors. Obviously, not having any fans in the ground is massive. Where I will sympathise with the players is there's nothing worse than playing in an empty stadium. And, you know, St Andrews with a big crowd is fantastic to play in front of. They drive you on. So I think that's been a factor. You know, we've had how many managers in the last 5 or 6 years? You know, like you said a minute ago, in the last few seasons, sometimes we've had to go to the last game of the season to survive. You can't keep dodging that bullet. You know, a few of my mates are Villa fans, and it happened to them a couple of years ago. They dodged it, then eventually, you know, they go down. So, you know, I'm very, very worried at the minute. You know, the Norwich game didn't really bother me that much, because I think in any league, if you're playing a team top of the league, if you get anything, it's a bonus. Where I was disappointed was Luton and Millwall. So I'm thinking their 2 games, really, we've got to be picking up minimum 4 points, but really 6 points. Yeah. And, you know, if you get anything against Norwich, top of the league is a bonus. But it's worrying times. It can be turned around. We got 14, 15 games to go, something like that. But on the flip side of that, what all of a sudden is going to change, where we're going to put 3 or 4 wins together on the bounce. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the last time we put 3 or 4 wins together on the bounce, which is the worrying thing, because that is what we're going to need to do.
Yeah, I think going back to the Wycombe game as well, you look at Wycombe, and I mean, we haven't beat them this season. They beat us, and then I think we drew earlier in the season. And you just need to win. Like, I think against Norwich, we actually played quite decent.
Yeah.
But you just need that win, and then just push on. And, like, I mean, the pessimist in me says exactly what, like you said, we're going to go down, because it almost feels inevitable that we can't just keep getting away with it on the last day of the season every time.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you can't do it. But like I say, we need to go on one of those. We need something to click. You know, maybe a really fluky victory, an own goal, and then you get a bit of confidence. Maybe the manager goes a little bit more gung-ho and attacking and say, right, okay, we've got to go for it now, lads. Draws are no good. Let's go and try and win every game, get a couple of goals in every game. Will he do that? I have my reservations, because I don't think that's his way. But we're going to have to, whichever way you cut it, we're going to have to string a number of wins together between now and the end of the season. Well, not even the end of the season, because if we don't, it'll be done before the end of the season.
Yeah.
How many games do you reckon he's got? So if you lose the next couple, do you reckon he's gone, Karanka? Or do you reckon he's got till the end of the season?
To be honest with you, I don't think he will go. I think if they were going to pull the trigger, they'd have done it. You know, we're second bottom at the end of the day. So I don't think he'll go now. I don't, because I think they would have already done it with circumstances. So obviously, you know, the powers that be, the board have got faith in him, and hopefully they're right. It's going to be one hell of a task to turn it round now. So, you know, I really, really sincerely hope he can do it.
I feel like the board won't like to admit that they've made another mistake by appointing the wrong manager again. So it's almost like a pride thing for the board. Like, we'll stick with it just to prove we're not wrong again.
Yeah, I mean, there might be an element of that, but it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Everyone's moaned about us changing the manager so many times. So they go, right, we'll get this one, we'll stick with it. Do you not stick with him, and then everyone says, oh, they changed the manager again? But you think, well, let's give someone a chance to turn it round with 14 games to go. No, you're bringing a new manager with 3 or 4 games to go. Or do you say, right, okay, we'll stick with it? So I have a little bit of sympathy for him there. It's a difficult one. Do you stick or twist? And I think with the amount of managerial changes that we've had, maybe they've painted themselves into a corner a little bit.
With you mentioned you played for Scotland internationally. With the Euros coming up, are you a Scotland fan or are you an England fan?
No, Scotland. It was always because my dad was born in a place called Coatbridge, and all that side of my family are from Coatbridge. And I was always, every school holiday, I always spent up in Coatbridge. So it wasn't like it was a distant grandfather that, I had really strong Scottish connections and roots. And no, you wasn't allowed to be an England fan in my house. I remember the home international. Do you remember the home internationals when England used to play Scotland and Wales and all that? And I always remember our old man, he'd go out and he'd have a drink, and it was like he scoured Erdington, we lived at the time. He'd like scour Erdington for the half a dozen drunkest jocks he could find, bring them back to our house to watch the game. So I was always Scotland down the years, mate, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Was that under Bertie Votes, was it?
Yeah, Bertie, again, it came quite late in my career. I didn't get my first cap until I was 30. I thought it had passed me by. And I've said it before, the only catalyst for that, I wasn't playing any better at 30 than I had been at 24, 25. It was simply the fact that we got to the Premier and I was playing in the Premier League. But it was a bit, I ended up getting 10 caps, which was great, and it was a fantastic achievement. But it probably came a little bit too late in my career, really. But brilliant, brilliant thing to look back on and say that I've done it. I made my debut at Easter Road, Hibs ground, and I had all my family there, which was, unbelievable. And then to play in a Euro qualifier, packed Camden Park against Germany, and we drew the game 1-1. Memories like that will last with me forever.
How do you reckon they'll get on at the Euros? Do you reckon they'll make it? Because I think I've said before on this podcast, I think it's probably England's most difficult game just because of the rivalry. Yeah,
probably. I mean, listen, hopefully they get there. They've got a chance. Scotland have got a good chance of getting there. They're going to struggle when they get there. You look at the pool of players that they've got to pick from. No disrespect to those players, but then you look at the likes of France and Italy and England and teams like that. They should be struggling. If they don't struggle, then it's a massive achievement. I mean, I always have more of an argument or problem with the England fans, to be honest with you, because the way that the seeding system is that skewed. England always have fantastic qualifying competitions, don't lose them, and then they get to the quarters, they get to the semis, they come up against the real good teams, and I don't think they're good enough. I don't think England will ever win anything in my lifetime, because I just think at that sort of last semi-final, quarter-final, semi-final stage, I think they always fall short. I mean, they've got a fantastic bunch of players now, but would you say this generation is any better than your Rio Ferdinands, your Gerrards, your Scholes, your Lampards, your Shearers, your Sheringhams? Is this a better team now? I probably wouldn't say so. So I think England have got a really good team, but I just think they're a little bit short on actually winning a World Cup or winning a Euros. You watch, they'll go and win it now, and I'll have to go into hiding.
If they win it, we're having you back on.
No, I ain't coming. I'm turning my phone off. I'm emigrating.
Fantastic. Last one for me, Paul. I think you mentioned the big old derby, the big West Midlands derby, the Birmingham derby. What's it like playing in that? And obviously you're a local lad, so you know what it means to the fans. Do the other players get kind of the feel for it as well? Or are they relying on you to get them geared up?
Definitely. That's one thing that used to annoy me down the years about managers. I was lucky I played in Nottingham derbies, Sheffield derbies, Birmingham derbies, so big games. And the managers are, it's only 3 points, load of crap. The manager, and I know why they do it. They try and take the heat off the players. First games you look for are your derby games. They're the first games you look for when they come out. And it means miles more. 3 points against Villa means miles more than 3 points against Luton or Wickham or Charlton or someone like that. I'd rather lose 3 games on the row and beat them than the other way around, because at that time we hadn't played him in the league for 16, 17 years. And I remember myself and Michael Johnson did a lot of build-up press that week, and we did the bits with Ian Taylor and I think it was Malberg, the centre half. And Malberg was really arrogant and dismissive. Every time, bits in I haven't heard of him, who's he, and all that. Bruce, he stuck it up in the changing room, used him mal, he'd done some quick, stuck up in the change, never forget it. So we're all looking at it. And in games like that, your manager doesn't, apart from don't do anything silly, don't get sent off, don't really need to say anything. And I remember that night, Monday night, clear as bell. I remember lining up in the tunnel, and I knew, and Jeff Horsfield, they'll all tell you the same, they was beating the tunnel that night. I knew we'd won that game before we set foot on the pitch, because we were in the tunnel, we were going mad, we were aggressive, we were shouting, we were banging the walls, we were foaming at the mouth like nutters, and they were there. They had a few foreigners in the team. You could tell they were looking like that. Who are these nutcases here? And we ended up, obviously, people remember the game for the incoming incident, but we ended up winning the game 3-0 comfortably. One of the best atmospheres I've ever played in. It felt like St Andrews was actually moving. And then again, we go to Villa Park and we beat them 2-0 there. Eventful game, obviously. Dion Dublin put the nut on Sav and Joey got sent off. But yeah, it does mean a lot more. And I don't think you'll find a football supporter that says that whoever their derby is doesn't mean more. I mean, you're an Albion fan, aren't you?
Wolves is everything. I mean, we're going to get relegated, but we beat Wolves, and that's to us,
Would you say if Albion are playing, I don't know, 2 games, I don't know, Charlton and Millwall or whatever, would you rather win them 2 and draw with Wolves or lose to Wolves, or get hammered in them 2 and beat Wolves?
Oh, you want to beat Wolves every time,
don't you? Of course you do.
And they expected to beat us this time, didn't they? You look at their team and stuff, and then little old Albion went and beat them. So it's fantastic. So
yeah, and to be fair, at that spell, we did have, for a season or 2, a couple of seasons, we sort of had the Indian sign over Villa. I think we won or we didn't get beat for the first, probably 4 or 5 games. Then it turned, and I think they hammered us 5-1 in one game, and then we couldn't win a game against them after that. But they were brilliant times, and like I say, to have all them years waiting and then do the double over them was unbelievable.
Fantastic.
You've obviously changed clubs a few times. What's the best initiation you've seen?
Oh God, well, in the first half of my career, it used to be like boot polishing you naked and all that. You can't get away with that. You can't get away with doing any of that. But I remember I bottled one. I bottled it at Watford, because your initiation at Watford, first away game you played in, so you'd have all the coaching staff and management staff, you'd have all the players. You'd have to get up on a chair at the front of the room and sing. So, but there was one of the young kids, one of the YTS lads, you could pay them to do it. So they were only on, I don't know, 50, 100 quid a week. So I'll give you another 100 quid. So I got a young lad to sing for me. But in the early days, it was brutal, mate. But you'd be locked up now to do what they were doing then. But yeah, getting up, singing and stuff like that was the norm. But I don't mind getting up and singing if I've had a beer, but doing it stone cold sober, I couldn't do it.
I can imagine. Banter. Who had the best banter in football?
Well, Michael Johnson was a brilliant, joker. Ian Bennett, just really funny lads. But Robbie Savage was great. Dean Saunders at Sheffield United, like a comedian, and he could do the voices for people as well. He'd take off Big Ron and Paul McGrath, and he'd have the voice. He was great. But Sav was great. Sav was just constantly taking the mickey out of everyone. Took the mickey out of everyone. He'd have an answer like that. Always up to no good. I remember one game, Keith Birchin, legend, great fella Birch, one of the nicest blokes I've come across. Sav was still living in Leicester at the time. So he's rang Keith Birchin. He's gone, Birch, and he was the main man at the time, Sav. For 2 years, he was our best player by a mile. So he's rang Birch. Friday, we're meant to be going up to Liverpool or Manchester or someone like that. So the gaffer's going, where's Sav? So he's rang Birch. Birch, don't tell the gaffer. Bloody car's broke down. I'm on junction so-and-so at the M69. We've only got 20. If you drove here quick now, you can get me. Yeah. So look, it was a bit of a panic at Birch. So I'm running around. What's the matter? Sav, don't tell the gaffer I'm going to go and get him. Unbeknownst to him, Sav's hiding round the corner, round the corner from West Hills. So look, Birch just drove off 100 miles an hour, and Sav comes in to get on the coach and gone and stuff. Just started. Where are you? Just stuff like that. And then Ian Bennett, we used to have to every Monday at Blues, we used to have to give a urine sample. First week that you got up on a Monday, you had to do all your dehydration levels and vitamins and all that, what you're deficient in and all that. And Ian Bennett put dog wee in his one time. The guy just testing it, and he'd got his dog to wee in it. So just, daft stuff like signing footballs. Ian Bennett again. Every Thursday you'd get a table full of stuff at Blues. Could be 30 balls, 30 tops, sign them all, you know. And he used to put D Duck, M Mouse, just mad. And then in the one time, it come down from Karen. Karen's gone, if she finds out who's signing it, Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse with 2 weeks' wages and all that. But there was loads of stuff, like people hiding it, nailing the shoes to the floor and cutting the toes out the socks. It was just an everyday occurrence. I mean, the dressing room sometimes can be a really unforgiving place. And if you come in with like a dodgy shirt or a dodgy pair of shoes on, you was getting hammered all day for it. But that was all part and parcel of it. I think if you ask a lot of players, the dressing room side of it and the banter side of it is probably one of the things they miss more than playing.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I didn't have like Benno down as being like, I know, seen from the stands, like one of the lads. And when I was a kid, I've got Ian Bennett's autograph. I'm going to have to go and check that now and make sure it's actually him and not.
Well, let me say, Benno was one of the funniest geezers. Typical goalie. Every goalie's a nutcase anyway. I've never played with the same one yet. But Benno was a really, really funny kid and a really good goalkeeper, Benno. Really good goaler.
Yeah. Currently, do you run a coaching academy?
Yeah, I coach young kids from 4 to 14. I've been involved with that for 20 years. I've actually been running the courses myself for about 10 years now. I do a bit of personal training with a few people, and I've got a community interest company where I go with sort of vulnerable adults, and I do a bit of fitness work with them as well. Obviously, everything's ground to a halt since March, really, with the COVID. Yeah, but yeah, I've been doing that for a long time now.
Fantastic. Last one before we close then, Paul. Where do you reckon Blues this season? Do you reckon they're going to be safe, or you reckon they're going down?
Listen, my head says we're going to struggle. My heart says fourth bottom. It's Blues. I'm going to go stay up. I'm letting my heart rule my head there, though. So I'll stay up. If you give me fourth bottom now, I'm snapping your hand off.
What did you say, Trig? 22nd? So relegation?
I think it's the pessimist in me. I'm the Blues, and we're all pessimists. I've been saying we're going to go down.
Think the worst. Anything else is a bonus. Then.
Exactly. We don't expect much, do we? So, right then, that wraps up part 2 and the Devlin special. Thanks for joining us. If you haven't checked out part 1 already, go back and check it out. It's worth watching. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Just a massive thank you to you, Paul, as well, for coming on. Really appreciate it from our side, and thanks for coming on.
Cheers, no worries, lads. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Mate. Cheers. Thanks a lot.